Good evening and welcome to our show from the capital, from the State Department specifically. For the past 10 years and after September 9/11 that hit the United States and the world, the United States government has been trying to build better understanding and understand the Muslim and create awareness and differentiate between Islam as a faith and Islam as radical. Today, my guest is Farah Pandith, who is a special representative for Muslim communities. It was a historic step that was taken by the United States government, and she was appointed by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2009. Farah, tell us a little bit about the role as a special representative to Muslim communities and why was there a need for such a role?
Well, this is the first time in American history that we have a special representative to Muslim communities, and I work here at the Department of State. But the vision for engagement with Muslims was a vision that President Obama put out right as he began his presidency on the steps of the Capitol in his inauguration speech when he spoke to Muslims around the world and said, I want to build partnerships with you in a wide variety of ways. And he explored some of the tools in the toolbox, both in Ankara when he spoke to the Turkish parliament, but of course, it was his speech in Cairo in June of '09 where he laid out his vision for engagement with Muslims around the world. And I think it's important to think about the structure here. For the first time, we're seeing a president engage so fully at the beginning of his administration to lay out a vision that would allow us as the American government to find ways to build partnerships with 1/4 of humanity. And so whether you are a Muslim in a Muslim majority country, or you are living as a minority somewhere on this earth. He is telling all of our embassies around the world, what more can we do to engage? So in Cairo, you heard him talk about different tools, exchanges. You heard him talk about women's empowerment. You heard him talk about health and science and technology and entrepreneurship. So that all parts of our government are working on initiatives and programs in which we can build capacity in relationship building, in partnerships, and in dialogue. So my job here at the Department of State is one part of a very big cohesive effort on behalf of the entire government. But here at the State Department, what Secretary Clinton has asked me to do is to be the person who's working with our embassies on a people-to-people level. So I engage with civil society all over the world. I engage with young people primarily. It is a focus of ours to engage with those people under the age of 30 because most Muslims on the planet are under the age of 30. And the numbers drive the way in which we have to be thinking about long-term commitment, what it is that we're doing in terms of partnership building, and listening to the ideas on the ground, which is really important. You know that governments do government-to-government interaction, but this is people-to-people, and it's engaging with what I call generation change.
Do you think there has been a lot done since 2009? Did you feel like the government is trying to understand more the Muslim culture and trying to learn more about its Muslim citizens, because we know there are millions in the United States, as well as its image for the Arab world, and a lot of the Muslim countries are allies to our...
Well, so you're asking such an important question. What's the reasoning behind engagement? And when you think about what the President said and what the Secretary has said about long-term partnerships and the importance of listening to people and taking ideas that come from the grassroots and moving them forward, you understand how important it is for us to think more creatively about the kinds of partnerships that we can build. It isn't just about being popular, which is what everybody frames engagement as. That's not, it is about ideas. It's about moving ideas forward. If I were to describe what is taking place with young people around the world, it's a youthquake. It's shaking up the world, what they are saying. 1.6 billion Muslims on the planet, most of whom are under the age of 30. All of them are part of the digital native capacity. All of them are on Twitter and on Facebook and on other social networking platforms, one or the other. They're connected, they're taking ideas from their peer groups. They are a force to be reckoned with because their ideas are powerful. And so what we are doing is trying to listen to their ideas, to give value to the average person on the road, the average student, the average entrepreneur, the person that has an idea that needs to be connected with either with other peers who are doing similar things or other NGOs or corporations that would be interested in their ideas, because as the President said and as the Secretary of State said, we're building things for the common good. And when the president said in Cairo, mutual interest and mutual respect, it is about the way in which we engage, the respectful manner in which we're listening. You talked about the values of different communities, and that nuance is very important. I mean, you spoke about the Middle East just now. Clearly, the different countries in the Middle East are not they don't have the same quote unquote culture. You have to give respect to the differences. And that goes too to the diversity of Muslims around the world. A Muslim in Suriname is as Muslim as a Muslim in Stockholm. A Muslim in Amman is as Muslim as a Muslim in Azerbaijan. So the way in which we give dignity to all people, the way in which our embassies are engaging, the manner in which we're thinking more creatively about how to listen to the people on the ground and be the convener and the facilitator and the intellectual partner with those ideas will drive new narratives. So we are launching new networks and new narratives worldwide in this digital age.
Has there been an improvement in educating, creating awareness among the non-Muslim American public about Islam and differentiating between radical Islam and Muslim Islam as a faith?
Well, so I think it's a very important thing that you're asking, because I think in everything that we do, we think about the global framework and the global context of the conversation. And the generation that I'm talking about, this generation came of age in a post 9/11 world. And when I go around the world, I've talked to Muslims, hundreds of different venues around the world, 42 different countries in the last 18 months. I've seen the diversity of Islam. But what's interesting to me is that the narratives that are compelling are shaped by media, are shaped by movies, are shaped by what's being heard and seen online. How do you create new narratives about what it means to be Muslim, about the diversity of Muslims, about the strength and the creativity and the passion of these young people that are part of Generation Change, that are change agents? You seed the capacity by allowing their ideas to grow. And I think what we are trying to do is in exploring a new narrative, in building the capacity, what is very important is that the image and the vision come directly from the top of our government. And the president has been so clear that there is no us and them, that there is a we. And he has set the tone to how we must think about our partners around the world. And when you talk very specifically about Muslims in America and non-Muslim Americans and how we think about Islam and how we think about Muslims, it's the way in which government officials interact and how they talk about things. You hear the president talk about Muslim communities, because he's giving the nuance, he's giving the respect to communities, that there isn't some world, there's one-stop shop for all Muslims, they're the same, but to give honor.
And remove the stereotype.
Yes, to move, and this initiative that Secretary Clinton launched last year, Generation Change, started with 75 American Muslims who were change agents, super cool young kids doing amazing things. And we brought them to the State Department and we introduced them to each other and we created a network, Generation Change. We're now building Generation Changes around the world of young kids under the age of 30 and connecting them. Why? Because there's power in that, there's power in ideas, and there is something that's happening peer-to-peer all over the world where Muslims see their ability to actually take an idea and move it forward with the connectivity. So you change, as I said, you change the way people think about what it means to be Muslim. When you see that incredible entrepreneur, when you think about a media spokesman like yourself, you see a government official who happens to be Muslim. Or, in fact, very importantly, you're not creating specimens out there of these are what Muslims are and this is what the rest of the world is, but you're integrating the approach so that you're building, you're building partnerships. And I think that will help a lot in terms of the larger framing of the way in which we're talking about things. The final point I want to make is that I have seen many more Muslims around the world, whether in my country or anywhere else in the world, push back against the typical stereotypes that you see around the world that cause us all pain when we hear them. We all know them. I don't need to go through all of it. But when you see people pushing back. They push back online. They create their own spaces. I meet young people all over the world that are saying, I am tired of being called X, Y, or Z. I want to show you what it means to be Muslim in 2011.
The killing of Osama bin Laden after such a long time, he was the image of terror and created this Islamophobia and the misunderstanding of the difference between the religion and the political thing behind Muslim radicals. To what extent do you think this is going to help in this mission in improving the relationships with Islam and creating a different idea about it?
Well, let's be very clear. Osama bin Laden did not represent Islam. He represented a terrorist organization that has an ideology of violence that is still present in our world. And it is in every part of our world. It is in every region of our world. And we all, every country on this planet, have to be diligent about pushing back against extremist ideology of any kind. Al-Qaeda and its affiliates are still present. The killing of UBL was extremely significant, of course. And what you're seeing is, in the weeks that have happened since then, you're seeing a lot of commentary by Muslims and non-Muslims about the fact that he never represented Islam.
True.
Why are people drawing a parallel between his corrupt ideology and a peaceful religion that has been around for 1400 years? So that separation is very necessary in terms of how we think about things. But I want to also say, since you brought up the issue of radicalization, that this is one of the key issues that I hear young people talking about all over the world, that they do not want any kind of parallels to be built between their generation and being Muslim and anything to do with terrorism, because they want the burden of that to be lifted, and they want everyone to understand the distinction between the ideology that Al-Qaeda and its affiliates promote and the religion of Islam, which are two unbelievably different things, and they should not be married together in any way, shape, or form. Having said that, we have to be clear that there is a threat around the world where that ideology seeps into communities and affects young people and others. But you're also seeing a pushback of people in those communities who do not want that ideology in their backyard. So you're seeing more innovative approaches to pushing back against the ideology, and both offline and online. And I think that's something that we need to be happy about.
Which brings us to the role of Muslims and what they can do in order to differentiate between these two. How do you see that things in the relationships are going to improve between the United States and the Muslim world, especially with everything that we talked about right now, like the Arab Spring and the youth and the social media?
I am very optimistic about this generation. I believe in this generation. It's because I've talked to many different, in many parts of the world and in many different formats. I've spoken with young people who see a very different vision for the world than we would believe here in the United States if you were only to read American papers or only. I am not saying that there are not challenges, but I see great opportunity if we reach out to this generation and do what I said earlier, promote the opportunities for them to put forward their ideas, to talk in their own voice, to develop their own initiatives to go forward to build more robust communities. I think America must continue on this path that the President outlined, to build respectful relationships with Muslims around the world. And so, sort of in sum, I see an opportunity here, a window that is open with a President and a Secretary of State that has made this a priority.
Thank you so much for the time and what we talked about, and a final message from you to the Arab and Muslim Americans.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you very much for the time that you've taken with me today to learn more about what we're doing here at the State Department. It's one of many tools in the toolbox, as I said earlier. But secondly, listen, as an American and as a Muslim and someone who has seen how many incredible stories there are in our country of Muslims who are doing remarkable things, I want to applaud you for taking the time to ask what more you can do. And I want to say to those Americans who are Muslim and those Americans who are not Muslim, that our country's capacity to push back against some of the challenges that we have globally means that we have to show the world what America is. And those values of mutual respect and the principles of our Constitution And the vision of our president to engage means that the partnership we have, not just on the government level externally, must also exist with citizens in the United States.
Thank you, Ryder.
Thank you so much.